Well, icebergs are still popular, right? Might as well do one for Pacific Rim. I'm sure that will go well. Hey guys, the Firebird is here. So, today I'm doing a non-Transformers video. Whoa! Yeah, so no one has done a Pacific Rim Iceberg on YouTube. It's kinda weird. Like, I get the franchise only has 2 movies, an anime, and a bunch of comics, but I still think that's enough for an iceberg. Me being the opportunistic prick that I am, I decided to actually do this first before anyone does. Now, I didn't make this iceberg myself. A guy on Reddit named MissFireYT was the one who actually did it. So, yeah. Today, we're talking about the Pacific Rim Iceberg. Clear skies. We start off with deleted scenes. Now, by being a movie, it's of course no surprise that both Pacific Rim Uprising and the original have deleted scenes. Some of these involve some extra character moments for Chuck and his dad, a few extra moments in the elevator scene where Riley meets Dr. Geiser-Newser, and so on. And for the most part, these are just like small developing scenes between our human cast. Not any big fighting scenes, unfortunately, because those are expensive to make. Pacific Rim Comics. Pacific Rim is a franchise with many comics and novels. Not that many because it's still relatively new, but it has quite a few. The comics often expand the universe and bridge the gap between Pacific Rim of the original and Uprising. Chow survived. Now, if you watch the original Pacific Rim movie, you know that Chow gets eaten by Otachi's baby, and somehow he appears at the end of the film, having, survived. Now, you might be thinking, oh yeah, it's just a little gag, it's just there for fun, it's not canon. Well, it actually turns out that it is canon. The comics actually do expand on this, where he comes back but he's horribly deformed after being exposed to the radiation that was inside Otachi's baby. He even tries to create his own kaijus at one point, and he's back to running his little criminal underground organization. I won't spoil much about the comics, I want you guys to check them out yourselves, but they're pretty interesting. Atlantic Rim. Atlantic Rim is the knockoff bootleg silent movie that was made to cash in the success of Pacific Rim. It basically involves a couple of knockoff Jaegers, which are very small, fighting large kaijus. If you're into that, go watch it, I'm sure you'll have a great time, but oh my god, why a silent video game? Now, when it comes to video game, that could be referring to a lot of things. Pacific Rim has surprisingly a lot of video games. There's Pacific Rim Breach Wars, which is a mobile game where you can collect your Jaegers and fight the kaijus. There's Pacific Rim the video game, which was released for consoles and PC, where you could customize your own Jaeger and fight a limited amount of kaijus. There's the Jaeger Designer game, the Pacific Rim the Mobile the game, Pacific Rim the Mobile game, very creative title there. Pacific Rim Kaiju Battle and Pacific Rim Jaeger Combat Simulator, which are smaller scale games. Yeah, Pacific Rim games do in fact exist, so if you didn't know that, now you know. Now we're at the tip of the iceberg. Climate change allegory. Now, I'm guessing that this is referring to the fact that the kaijus are coming in because we basically polluted the atmosphere, so in a way we kind of brought our own doom to our doorsteps unintentionally because we didn't recycle and took care of the environment enough. I think that's what this is referring to, because that's basically the whole reason the kaijus are even coming in the first place in the first movie. At least until Uprising retconned that. Thanks, Uprising. Makomori test. Okay, so I'm gonna read this from the Wikipedia just to sound non-biased and whatever, because I hate politics and stuff, but this should paint a clear picture. The Makomori test is a set of criteria pertaining to the representation of female characters within a film, television show, or other work of fiction. The test originated online from the Tumblr user Chilia, it's from Tumblr, inspired by the character of Makomori from the 2013 film Pacific Rim, and a discourse they had with another user, Spider-Sen, about the fact that though the film had good representation of women, it would not have passed the Bechdel test, an existing assessment of gender representation. The requirement of the Makomori test is that a film or television show had at least one female character, that this character had an independent plot arc, and that the character or her arc does not simply exist to support a male character's plot arc. Basically what this means is that Makomori, being a female character, had her own character arc, she developed throughout the film, and wasn't like a compliment to Riley's own character arc. Like, they're both like developed throughout the film in their own ways, and together, they overcome their odds and beat the kaijus. That's basically about it. Kanye West. I think they misspelled it. It says Kanye West here. I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be Kanye West. I think this is referring to the time Kanye West basically said that he liked Pacific Rim, and he quote-unquote said it's one of my favorite movies of all time. I think that's about it. It's cool that he likes it, I guess. Del Toro's sequel. This is something that a lot of people get confused, but Pacific Rim Uprising is not made by Guillermo del Toro. It's made by someone else who, basically has his own interpretation of where the Pacific Rim franchise should go. Del Toro basically had a whole sequel in mind that he had been working on for the longest time. However, the film kept getting pushed back because of overcrowded release schedules and complications with Del Toro's work schedules. It was kind of a mess. Pre-production started in 2013 and the whole project ended around 2017. Interesting enough, some of the ideas that were presented in Uprising were actually in Del Toro's planned script, like the precursors using Neutron Geysers' knowledge of mankind to use it against them, Gypsy Danger returning in some shape or form, Kaiju Jaeger hybrids being a thing, and the list goes on. You should check the wiki for this because there's a lot to cover here, and some of that is just like Del Toro being like, oh yeah, we might do this thing, but I can't say if we will, so it's a bit hard to tell what's fact and what's not. Lucky 7. I think what makes Lucky 7 so interesting and why it's here on the Iceberg because Hercules Handsome, actually before piloting Striker Eureka, was the pilot for Lucky 7. Him and his brother Scott Handsome actually piloted the Jaeger together. It's not well known exactly the reasons why Herc is reassigned to Striker Eureka after being a pilot for Lucky 7, but we do know that Lucky 7 eventually ends up getting destroyed at some point during the Kaiju War. Shatterdome Strike. Shatterdome Strike is an interactive theme park attraction designed by Legacy Entertainment and Lee Carnegie Entertainment and developed by Trans Studio Cybertron. Pacific Rim Shatterdome Strike is basically following up the events of Uprising, where the audience, aboard the Jaeger and they go around seeing the Kaiju and the Jaegers duke it out. It looks actually pretty cool, and we even get to see some exclusive new Kaiju, which look okay, I guess. They look a bit too generic. But it's Uprising. JaegerCon. JaegerCon was an online fan convention held on Tumblr.com, because of course it was Tumblr, August 9, 10, and August 11 in 2013, to coincide with K-Day, the beginning of the Kaiju War in the Pacific Rim universe. This was basically funded by some Tumblr users, and it was recognized with the likes of Guillermo del Toro and Travis Beckman, and the cast of the film. Basically it was like the fans getting together and showing their appreciation for the Pacific Rim movie, which was actually pretty cool of them. I don't think there has been another JaegerCon since then. If I'm wrong, correct me about that. I don't think there has been another JaegerCon since then, and I don't think there will be, especially since Del Toro is no longer part of the franchise and Uprising is not that good. But hey, it was fun while it lasted, I guess. Kaiju remedies. Okay, I think this is referring to the fact that in the movie, the Kaiju's, organs, their parts, even their excrement could be used to fertilize a whole field of crops, or even used as some form of medicine for some people. I guess this is what this is referring to. It's a detail that a lot of people often forget, that the Kaijus, even though they bring destruction everywhere they go, for the most part, if you do kill one of them, it's like a gold mine of resources. Unused Jaeger/Kaiju. Now, it's exactly what it says. The first one especially has a lot of unused Kaijus and Jaegers. A lot of them which unfortunately we don't have any images from. I actually made a video talking about all of the Kaijus and Jaegers that were part of the Pacific Rim franchise, even some of the unused ones. So if you guys are interested in seeing some of the ones that they're making into the film, go check out that video. I still need to make part 2 for that, and I will eventually. So if you guys want me to make part 2, like and comment in this video, and like and comment on that one, that lets me know that you guys are interested in more Pacific Rim content. But don't worry, part 2 will come eventually. Early script. Pacific Rim is a franchise with a lot of unused ideas. A Pacific Rim draft script exists, which is basically the story of the movie but different. We follow different characters, we see different kaijus, some concept that exists of how the Shatterdome used to look like, and who our main characters were supposed to be. Overall, the way the script ends is pretty much the same way the movie ends. It's just some of the details to get there are actually a little different. I do recommend giving this a read because it's very interesting seeing what was changed, what was kept, and just how different some things were. In the script, Salandran was actually a Category 3 Kaiju, and he wasn't the big bad enemy Kaiju of the film, Tom Cruise. So I'm guessing this is referring to the fact that Tom Cruise was originally planned to be part of the original Pacific Rim movie, but unfortunately due to scheduling issues, Del Toro couldn't get him to stick around and stay for the movie. Which is a bit unfortunate, but hey, it happens. The biggest enemy of Hollywood is scheduling issues. Cancelled anime. Now, this is not referring to Pacific Rim The Black, the latest anime that came out for the Pacific Rim franchise, which I also made a bit of review about it with my good friend M Nicely, which you should also go and check out. I'm just shamelessly plugging everything right now. Now, the cancelled anime was Del Toro's vision. Before he left the franchise, he had plans for an anime, but unfortunately that one got cancelled and we ended up with The Black instead, for better or for worse. Pacific Rim Training Day. Pacific Rim Training Day is a short fan film produced by Maker Studios through its channel Polaris. Training Day is an official fan film used to promote Guillermo del Toro's Pacific Rim. The film was made over the course of a month with fan participation and stars the popular Let's Players from Polaris as Jaeger pilots in training. The film's actually pretty short, so if you have time, I do recommend on watching it. Even Guillermo del Toro makes a cameo appearance in Training Day. So if you're a fan of Pacific Rim at all, this is one you just can't miss. Stryker was originally main Jaeger. This is one that's a little bit more well known. There's a lot of concept art featuring Stryker Eureka. He was initially gonna be the main Jaeger of the film instead of Gypsy Danger, just because he looked more heroic. And honestly, Stryker Eureka is that one Jaeger that I would say right next to Gypsy Danger is probably the most popular of the franchise. He even made an appearance in Pacific Rim The Black, even though he's supposed to be non-functioning by this point. And yes, before you correct me, I know that's Stryker, Berserker, or whatever. That's a stupid name. Pacific Rim The Black can be some really stupid names for Jaegers and Kaiju sometimes. Prop auction. Now, I think this is referring to the fact that a lot of the props that were used for the film were auctioned off to the highest bidder online. You can actually still go through the website where they did that. You can see plenty of props. Some of the Jaeger suits were sold. A few other props that they used in the movies for the backgrounds were sold. And honestly, if I could get my hands on any of these things here, I would really want the Crimson Typhoon Jaeger suit. That one looks amazing. Now we're nearing the bottom of the iceberg. Monsterverse crossover. It's probably talking about how Legendary Pictures, the owners of the Monsterverse, you know, Godzilla, King Kong, all of those guys, have kind of teased the possibilities of there being a crossover with the Monsterverse. And honestly, that's actually kind of possible because the way the conflict in Pacific Rim works is that we have the precursors coming from this alternate universe, planet, dimension thing, sending kaijus into our world by a wormhole that transcends space and time. So you can definitely make it so that a Jaeger ends up in the Monsterverse universe or vice versa. It's definitely possible, though I don't know if I'm a huge fan of that idea. The Toro in It's Always Sunny. Guillermo del Toro appeared in 2 episodes of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where he's reunited with some cast members of the Pacific Rim movies, so that's pretty cool. That's a very obscure one that I know a lot of you guys don't know about. Lima Victor 426. This is an Easter egg that Newt initializes to activate the drones opening the breaches in Pacific Rim Uprising. He uses the code Lima Victor 426, which is actually a reference to LB 426, the planet Acheron from the movie Aliens. Luna Pentecost. As you might have guessed by the name, this is actually Stryker Pentecost's sister. She appears in the Pacific Rim comics where she was actually a Royal Air Force pilot. She was unfortunately killed by Trespasser when the Kaiju slashed her jet in half with his claws, killing her in the process. Soul of Jogoking's figures. I'm guessing this is referring to the Pacific Rim figures that are made by Soul of Chogoking, which is a Japanese company that produces adult collector toys. They made so for the Pacific Rim Jaegers, and I have to say they look really good. As you can see by these images, they're very high quality and pretty accurate to the film. Jeez, you will never get this kind of quality from Hasbro. Now we're at the bottom of the iceberg, and we're one step away from the abyss. Romeo Blue deployed to fight Knifehead. Now this is referring to how when Knifehead emerges from the breach and heads to Anchorage, Alaska, in a move to head the creature off, Romeo Blue is deployed to defend the 10-mile mark. However, Knifehead evades the Mark 1 Jaeger And then Gypsy Danger is deployed from the Anchorage Shardome to defend Miracle Mile. So originally, Romeo Blue was intended to fight Knifehead, but Knifehead, being the sneaky bastard that he is, evaded him and ended up fighting Gypsy Danger instead. And I found that very interesting because Romeo Blue is a Mark I Jaeger, so meaning that he was active during the time where the movie started, making him one of the oldest serving Mark I Jaegers. So that's pretty cool. Unused concepts for the scavengers. Now, I couldn't find a lot for these. I took a look, I didn't find anything too concrete. There are these outfits that says Pacific Rim Scavenger, and it's like a weird rural Chinese scavenger miner kind of look. My guess is these guys will probably gonna go around and do what the people at Kaiju Remedies do, you know, where they harvest the organs of dead kaijus and sell them for profit. Maybe, I don't know. If you guys know more about this one, please let me know in the comments down below. Tales from the Drift was an ongoing series. Now, Tales from the Drift is a 4-issue comic book miniseries presented by Guillermo del Toro and published by Legendary Comics. Tales from the Drift follows the story of Doug and Kaori Jessup, a husband and wife Jaeger team, chronicling their first meeting and the final days of Desert Ronin before its destruction. This is referring to the fact that Tales from the Drift was originally supposed to be an ongoing series, but was later reduced to a 4-issue release from November 2015 to May 2016. The series is pretty good actually, you should give it a read if you can. We even see some of the weirdest and crazy kaijus out there like Ragnarok, who's this very humanoid looking kaiju with 6 arms. Original plans for Tendo. Now Tendo Choice, one of the characters from Pacific Rim, he's this guy right here. According to the creator of the Iceberg, he mentioned that he was supposed to be a grumpy, redeemed con man type of character, but Del Toro and Clifton Collins Jr. decided to take a different direction with him. They talk about it in the art book, and apparently that's it. And now we're at the bottom of the abyss. This is where we get into the very disturbing stuff. So, viewer discretion is advised. Pacific Rim Job. Do not search it up. If you know what this is alluding to, then you know, but do not search it up. Not safe for work stuff. That's all I'm gonna say. Tango Tasmania. Tango Tasmania is a Mark I Jaeger who was constructed in the Anchorage factory alongside Romeo Blue and several other Mark I Jaegers. He was destroyed at some point by an unclassified kaiju during the war. I'm not really sure why this is like pretty low on the list. Is it because he's a Mark I Jaeger, or is it because something else? All that I could find that's mildly interesting is that when Travis Beckman, one of the screenwriters for Pacific Rim, was questioned about Tango Tasmania, he stated its name was not Tango Tasmania and that components in Jaeger names are not repeated. I'm guessing it's because of the word tango, because we also have a Coyote Tango in there, so I'm guessing that he's referring to that name should not repeat, so Tango Tasmania is not this Jaeger's real name. Okay, what about Gypsy Avenger? What about Striker Berserker? Explain, Travis, explain! Echo Beijing. Echo Beijing is a Mark IV China Jaeger, which is a rebuild Crimson Typhoon, housed at the Hong Kong Shardome that is piloted by Charlie Liam and Mick Bing, the sons of Harvey and Janet Fry before being adopted by Tora and Li Bing, the pilots of Shanghai Fighter, a Mark II Chinese Jaeger. Crimson 2.0 is otherwise the same as its original form, but its compod is now more armor, making sure Kaiju cannot get to it. So basically they learned from the original Crimson Typhoon that got its head ripped off. This guy now has a sturdier head to make sure it's not ripped off so easily. This actually makes a whole lot of sense, and it's an easy way to bring Crimson Typhoon back, though I found this guy in the custom Pacific Rim wiki, so the canonicity of this guy is up in the air. But hey, it should make you Crimson Typhoon fans happy. Cancelled NECA figures. Much like the title suggests, these are, NECA figures that were made, but they were cancelled because of some reason or another, or maybe they were just discontinued. This is probably also talking about some figures that never got to see the light of day too. And they have sex, by the way. Are you trying to get me demonetized, Iceberg? Okay, so from what I managed to find out is that Charlie Day is really into the shipping of Pacific Rim's Nude and Herman. Charlie Day, in case you don't know, is the actor who plays Newt in the movies, and I also didn't know that because I don't bother memorizing actor names. Basically, the actor mentioned that he's in support of this ship, like he kinda thinks it will be a really cool story to have like the two opposing scientists come together and maybe find love and, you know, work together to overcome the odds, which I'll give him that, that's actually a pretty cool idea. He says, quote unquote, "We've seen many stories about..." Actually, this is the bottom of the abyss. I should probably make this sound very creepy and dramatic, so... "We've seen many stories about the heroic guy and the heroic girl who find love at the end, but we've not seen many about the two oddball scientists who are forced to work together and who are complete opposites, who develop a real bond and love for one another. I understand what they're responding to. By the way, it informs what I do in the scenes. I think my character loves Golotep's character, although he also will never admit that. And they have sex, by the way. It's just not scripted." Quote unquote. Yeah, that's basically what he's saying. That's where the infamous comment comes from. Otachi in Godzilla King of the Monsters concept art. Now, in King of the Monsters, Otachi actually appears as an Easter egg. Well, at least in concept art. In this concept art, if you look at the screens, you can see the Kaiju parasites, and you also see the concept art for Otachi being shown in the panels on the screen, which is a nice Easter egg, and unfortunately I don't think it made it into the actual film. Riley gets cancer. Yeah, I know how that sounds, but hear me out here. In the comments for the Iceberg, someone did mention this, and the creator basically mentioned that he was exposed to the antiverse and a lot of radiation from Gypsy's reactor, which probably gave him cancer and could explain why he wasn't in an uprising. I'm not sure if this is like actual officially confirmed, but in all honesty, it makes sense if you think about it. The Kaijus are radiating radiation, like their blood is radiated. The antiverse has to be, you know, in some shape or form radiated. And even if that's not the case, Gypsy's reactor was basically a nuclear reactor. So yeah, Riley getting cancer, unironically, it's a very likely possibility, which could explain his uprising absence. Although Mako could have also been exposed, but to a lesser extent, because she was ejected from Gypsy before they reached the Antiverse, so that's possible. Vanessa Gottlieb. Now, she is Herman Gottlieb's wife, and apparently we never really got a description of her. The canonicity for her is a bit weird, because in Pacific Rim Man Machine Sea Monster, she was listed as Herman's next of kin. Her relationship with Herman was revealed in an official novelization to be, you know, his wife. And on August 17, 2013, when asked about Vanessa, Travis Beckman confirmed that she was Herman's wife and that she was a model. And later in August 25th, he provided a brief description of what Vanessa could look like, answering that she could resemble actress Gina Torres or Jessica Nicole. He further implied Vanessa was a biracial black woman when answering more questions about her appearance. And here's where we go into the controversy. All of this for a background character that does not even appear on the film. Okay, so the Pacific Rim Wiki describes this really well. So if you're interested in reading what the controversy is in full, I recommend that you go and read it yourself. But I'm gonna give you an abridged version of this because topics like this are always not fun. But okay, listen. So, Vanessa's a woman of color, and she's also a model. So some people said that it doesn't make sense for a scientist who doesn't seem to, you know, express too much emotion in anything that's not based on logic and facts like he did on the film to go for a model. And the writer who basically told us all of this information basically kind of argued against it. Some people made accusations that Vanessa was a trophy wife. Some people got upset that the whole Newton and Herman ship wouldn't become true since, you know, Herman has canonically a wife. Some people were saying some things about minorities and blah blah this, blah blah that. It's a whole nasty situation where people, you know, say one thing and they all try to reach this hill of self-righteousness and moral high ground. And I can't help but think that most of this comes from either Twitter or Tumblr. Actually, I just checked the Pacific Rim wiki where the sources for all this comes from, and yep, these ones come from Tumblr, cause of course it does! And keep in mind that all of this discourse is solely caused by a character that doesn't even exist, and doesn't even appear in the movie. Keep that in mind, this is how petty this argument is! Other famous kaiju in Uprising. I guess this is referring to another cameo in Uprising, which we see some other famous kaijus like Gigan, Clover, Gamera, Batra, the Mutos, and even in the franchise, other famous kaiju like Mothra, Anguirus, Rodan, and King Ghidorah get listed as kaijus, although obviously they're not seen on screen. They're just small fun Easter eggs, which furthers fuels the fire of fans into believing that we might actually see a MonsterVerse crossover. But yeah guys, that's the Pacific Rim Iceberg made by Misfire YT. I'll put a link to his subreddit so you guys can go and check it out for yourselves. I feel like I got everything, well, almost everything. There were maybe a few things that I didn't know myself, and if you knew them or if I got some things wrong, feel free to explain them in the comments down below. I'm always looking forward to learning more about the franchise. Now, this is the only iceberg I could find. Surprisingly enough, Pacific Rim icebergs are not that popular since I only found one. And the other one I did find was this thumbnail of Cherno Alpha looking at an iceberg. I might do a follow-up Iceberg because I feel like there's still a whole lot more details that could be added or that weren't mentioned here. Or hell, I'll leave it up to you guys. If you guys want to make me a Pacific Rim Iceberg, make one and send it to me via Discord, and I'll feature it here, give you a shout out to your YouTube channel or whatever, and make a part 2 where I cover more hidden details, because I'm sure there's still some stuff that could have been added here. So yeah, if you feel like you're up to the challenge, link to my Discord server is gonna be in the description down below. There's plenty of Pacific Rim fans there, plenty of Godzilla fans, way too many Godzilla fans. And before you ask me, I'm not gonna make a Godzilla Iceberg because I don't know a lot about Godzilla. I know there's a lot of you guys who like Godzilla and want me to talk about Godzilla, but I can't talk about something that I barely know anything about. So I'm sorry. But yeah guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Let me know which facts here you didn't know about, which ones you didn't know about, and if you guys would like to see more Pacific Rim content in the future. As always, like, comment, and subscribe. It lets me know that you guys want to see more Pacific Rim stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next video, whatever that may be. Bye guys. Anyways guys, before we go, shout out to our amazing patrons: True Blue 712, Stitch Productions, Stephanie Ballard, Christopher Prime, Predator King Hunter Plays, Mario Gordon, Allspark Studios, Scrub Lordo, and to our even bigger Big Boss patron Jordan the Great, who donated $100. And to our other even bigger bold Patreon, X23, who donated a amount of money. I leave you guys to wonder how much he did. Anyways, thank you guys for your donation, it's much appreciated. I need the money to be able to feed Squeaker because Squeaker is a useless platypus who doesn't do much all day. So it falls to me and you. I tip my fedora in gratitude and toast in your honor. If you guys want to donate to my Patreon, links in the description down below. Some of these guys also do some YouTube content, so if you guys want to check them out, that will be much appreciated. Some of them do Transformer stuff, some of them do non-TF content if you're into that. But be sure to check them out because you're guaranteed to find at least something cool that's to your liking in one of their channels. I even collab with some of them, Scrubler. But keep in mind that donating is optional because freedom is the right of all sentient beings. By donating to my Patreon, you get quite a few rewards. You get to see some of my videos early, some of my more longer animated projects. You'll get to see some early sketches and even suggest some things if you want them to. You get to collab with me in some of my videos if you so choose. You just have to let me know. And you can request videos and suggest some video ideas. So yeah, it's a pretty good deal. But just remember, we don't force anyone. So yeah, thanks a lot guys.